Hello, Harry.
Good afternoon.
I don't know if you saw, I'm looking to change the time of this meeting. Um, and I sent out a whole bunch of options and Shruti replied which ones work for her.
Oh, I'll have to take a look.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you so if you could see if any of these times work for you. So she put these times
Yeah,
Mondays at 4, Tuesdays at 3, and Fridays at 3. I'm sorry, those are Eastern Standard. Mondays at, are
yeah.
you?
I'm looking at I'm Pacific, so
So
um,
1 on Mondays, 12 on Tuesdays and Fridays. Do any of those work for you?
all three, believe it or not, all three of those work for me.
Oh, wonderful.
Let me double check that, but I mean, except for one-off meetings, like I just
Exactly.
can't. But
Exactly. There's always that problem.
oh, see, what's the Monday one?
1 p.m.
Oh
your
yeah,
time.
yeah, yep, barely works, and then Tuesday works, and yeah, actually, all three of those just happen to be. We must have the same kind of meeting schedule. Um,
I hesitated to put the 12 p.m. options in. When I sent out the list, there were many more options because I was like, oh, that's lunchtime. Um,
well,
so I was really surprised that she went for those two as her favorites.
I mean, my boss is in Minnesota, my other boss is in Colorado, so
Yes.
there's no lunchtime for me. So
Uh-huh. I hear you. Do you mostly work from home?
yeah, I do. I'm here in Redmond, Washington.
Oh, expensive real estate.
Yeah, I got in early. Um,
Good. I'm
yeah,
proud. Happy.
yeah, but I used to work at Microsoft, and we bought like 20
Um,
years ago. We bought 6 acres when it was still considered kind of countryside, and
Nice.
now it's just, oh man, it's just insane.
Well, that's good. That really worked out for you guys. All right, so all of these three would work from your point of view.
Yeah.
Um, so that's good to know. So next week is canceled for sure, and the week after, whatever we pick for this, I'd like to I'd like to that week start the new time. So let's see if we can get a few other people here and we can talk about it. So while it's just the two of us, from your point of view, how did the summit go?
I Unfortunately, I had to jump between the security and sustainability tracks running at the same time.
Oh,
But I thought it went really well. I mean, I had the last talk of the day and had a good room left with good Q&A and good interaction afterwards. They had to kick us out of the convention center. So yeah, that it was the type of interaction I was looking for. I thought the meeting Shruti ran was excellent. Um, the side meeting.
yeah, she
Good.
shared last time the five
Yeah,
um,
Yeah, these folks were
take.
super helpful in that discussion.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the security group took up the topic of data sanitization for their full next meeting, which was
Oh,
good to see. So, and
what
lots of
does
opinions in that group.
what does that mean, data sanitization?
Well, it means so to resell a drive, you have to make sure that every bit of user data is completely off the drive and can never be
Ah,
recovered. Because
Yes.
the even the thought of, it doesn't even have to happen, just the thought of it possibly happening is
uh-huh.
enough to deter companies. And we've been pushing this for some time. So others, including Microsoft, Been coming up with new ideas. I think Microsoft and Google were pushing. They had a talk on an open source key store for managing keys in a more transparent way, so that there's more trust around data sanitization. And they had a talk that gave, I think it was Brian Kelly, I forget who from Microsoft, I forget who it was from
Or
Google,
safe.
maybe. Oh no, Safe as well. This was in addition to Safe. So yes, the Safe concept, which is more around firmware auditing, having a single process. And we do third-party firmware auditing ourselves already. That doesn't mean we're opposed. I mean, anything that makes it easier and perhaps even cheaper and more standardized for us and builds more trust is good. So there's the Safe concept. There's this open source key management store, and then in side conversations, Jeff Anderson from Google is talking about doing attestation for sanitization. So that there's a better way of tracking which drives have failed or passed sanitization, so it can be managed better. So we saw a ton of progress, and that's built into, like I said, that's built into the following security discussion.
That's great. Is there a work stream under security that is now working on this?
Nope,
Data
no,
sanitization?
we're all one work stream in security.
Oh, I see.
It's a big group. Like typically you'll see 35 to 40 people on the call.
I see. It's not split into work streams based on task. It's all one.
Sometimes if we're working on a spec, there'll be a small group that goes off and focuses on the spec.
Okay.
But they don't meet separately. Well, they don't have formal. They don't do subgroups like we do.
I see. It would be, maybe I should subscribe and then join. It would be interesting to, I wanted to listen to where they're going with the data sanitization. Obviously,
yeah, I mean,
reuse.
It's hard to know when because John Michael and I have talked there a couple of times in the past, and I didn't even expect the topic to come up 2 weeks ago. So it's let's say it's hit and miss.
I see.
So a lot of the stuff is just going to be really dry, interesting if you're into security, but if we know a topic's coming up, then what I'm going to do is, and I actually mentioned this, is that I'd like to loop this group in with that group once in a great while, so we can have a cross discussion.
Right. Do you know who is the project lead for security?
The project leads are Brian Kelly from Microsoft, and
Brian is the lead. Okay.
Jeff Anderson from Google, and then Andreas from Google is the I forget what they're called now. He was the IC incubation committee member. I think they have a new name now.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that will be great if they are going somewhere with it. Yeah,
Okay.
I also have a question for you folks after the summit discussion. Yeah, I have a side question.
Go ahead.
Well, my question was, because I think probably both of you might have a good insight into this. So within sustainability, you probably heard of that OCP sustainability is trying to work with iMasons sort of to build the carbon nutrition label kind of work, which would sort of talk about what is the methodology used for the LCA, etc. So would you folks have any idea who would be a good person from OCP sustainability to be the workstream lead in that, somebody who would be a little knowledgeable on that side? We'll obviously have.
Yeah,
Priya sent out an email asking for volunteers.
Yeah, so that's from her side. So she's asking for folks who have interest in doing the same kind of labeling for facilities. So the work will be done for both the equipment also and for facilities also. So she's certainly looking for, somebody to lead from her side for the facility work.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were looking for at the IT equipment level. And there are going to be the iMasons folks,
Yep.
co-leading. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people I know are on our side, or I'll have to see if we have someone on the system side. I know some people who are more into it on the in our sustainability org on the drive side. But they aren't part of this group right now. We're running a bit lean right now.
Yeah, and maybe, on the drive side because drives do come in within the IT equipment. So that'll be fine, I would think.
Yeah, I think especially if they can cover SSDs and HDDs, because then you're getting into the semiconductor side.
Right. Yeah,
And
that would cover
they're
broader.
two very different facets of technology. Actually, if you look at the embedded carbon or the carbon aspects.
Right. Yep.
Let me ask internally and see if there'd be someone interested.
Sure, that will be great. Yeah.
Yeah. I forget let's see. The other person I would ask is Luke Steck, who from Seagate, who sometimes attends these meetings.
Luke,
Yeah,
I think
but it's his boss. His boss is the one I was going to ask.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll let you sort of make the judgment. Whoever you think would be appropriate, maybe you
Yeah,
can ask them.
the couple of people I can think that would be most appropriate are actually based in Asia,
Okay.
which makes the timing of calls a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, probably it will have to be like, I mean, to be honest, some of the work streams already happen on an early morning time. So if that works, or at least, Mohan was for a large part actually in India when he was running, when he
Oh
was
no,
a
yeah,
part. Yeah, so that's why DCEM has always been early in the morning, DCEM work stream.
yeah.
So in that sense, I think that should be okay to schedule.
Okay.
A lot of the work streams also have European participation, so they tend to go early morning. I think we are a little exception here. Yeah.
The EU does have some kind of a label thing for IT equipment.
Is it? Okay.
Might be interesting for that group to understand what's there. And then also, I hope they would look at where we come to with grading and kind of try to take some of that into account as well.
Yeah, so I intend, like, right now the work stream is not even started. Of course, we are just looking for who would be interested. But yeah, I intend pointing them to this so that, so there is kosher between these two items of work.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
All
That
right.
that was my question.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing for Ari to know is that we did pick up for this group a new white paper for doing the carbon intensity and how you I guess that came out as one of the top 5 things for from Shruthi's meeting.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I got assigned over here.
Yeah,
That
the
was
carbon, intensity related to the operational. When it came up in the main OCP sustainability meeting, right? The suggestion from Mohan, etc., was that maybe that should fall under this work stream.
Yeah, and we're already dealing with it, just not we're being kind of oblique about it, but the carbon intensity also is big part of the manufacturing footprint as well. So
so for both operations and embedded embodied carbon.
yeah,
Okay, that's a
so
big topic. Okay.
yeah, it's a big topic. So, yeah, so we're gonna have an exciting year ahead of us. All right, let me share and welcome, David. Um,
Oh, hi, David.
Hi guys, sorry, couldn't get off mute fast enough.
problems. All right. So meeting logistics. So it seems that Tuesday at 12 PST or Friday at 12 PST. Does anybody want to vote between those two?
Earlier the better, does it matter? To me it doesn't matter. Just depends if
Alright.
you're just talking about how earlier is better in the day for some people, right? So
Yeah.
Oh, I guess these are both at 12 PST, but it's
Yep.
just different days.
Yeah, I'm taking from your feedback, Shruti, and before you came, Ari said all three of these could work for him.
Oh, great. Awesome.
So
So
do-
maybe David or Deb, you yourself have a preference, maybe?
I would lean towards Tuesday just because Friday sometimes can be kind of a crazy day.
same Tuesday.
All right.
Yeah, I would say so as well.
All right. So let's say that this is that. Okay, so this is new time day. Great. So next week is definitely canceled. And I will put this on the OCP calendar starting the week after. But I'll also do, Shruti, I think you did it briefly. I will send from my Intel calendar as well.
Sure.
Just because like I canceled next week and the message that came back, it would never delete it from my calendar. I don't quite understand how the OCP calendar works. So people can pick and choose whether they want to accept it. I'll send the invite and it will also be on the OCP calendar. So
Yes, that'll be
um,
great. So actually at the summit, a number of folks were mentioning that it's hard to track what time is it, where is the correct link, especially because we had moved from GoToMeeting to Zoom recently.
yeah,
So that's why I did that. Well, I was doing it for all the 3 work streams, but then you said that you're trying to change the time, so I didn't
right,
do
exactly.
it long term for this.
So I'll send it from my personal calendar and update OCP calendar. All right, so that will be good. All right, we've got some administrivia things I'd like to just skip over for now. I did want to bring up the new laws from California. They are regulating that, basically if you exchange $1 of revenue in California, so that covers a lot of companies, you have to report your scope 3. So I don't want to take too much time in this meeting, except for to say that I think this does put a wind behind our back and will give the IT equipment vendors, more of a push to disclose more broadly, not just to your top customers, because a lot of people buy IT equipment in California. All right, so just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. If you want more information, you can ping me and I will send some information.
Yeah, do we have any details? Is there any stipulation around how you report or what methods you go through, or is it just you have to say a number?
All right.
I don't think they've given a template kind of thing yet. But also this is applicable from 2026, scope 3, correct?
Okay.
Well, is that reporting for 25?
Oh, I don't remember
Did
that.
take some.
Yeah, maybe it's
some
in
screenshots yesterday.
in 26 for 25. Yeah, might be for 25.
But it does seem that
California usually does things like this very well, so I'm not trying to be cynical. I just don't know.
Um,
I'm looking at a page that talks about it. One thing to note, though, another requirement is that a company has to have a total annual revenue in excess of $1 billion. So we need to double check on that to see if that's how that applies. That
Yeah.
impacts things.
yeah, so, but that's your global revenue. But your revenue in California can be very, very small and you're still, would fall into that. So,
I think they
yeah,
did that
looking,
top
this
places doing it.
unfortunately doesn't seem, I didn't capture. Oh, so this is saying first reporting year 2026 on your fiscal year 25 data.
Okay, yeah.
So not next year's data, but the year after. And I don't know that, but I mean, what's super important is like there's, you have to get like external assurance, which is a pretty big deal. You can't just do what you want. You have to get somebody else.
Yeah, I bet there'll be an external sort of auditing kind of thing.
Yes, required.
Yeah.
That would be required.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to build this very much on the same lines that financial reporting happens. So,
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I know that attended something else that was better on the assurance part, but I don't know. I don't know where that is, but it definitely seemed that California was looking for some pretty big assurance, you know. A lot of people are gonna open up businesses to do all this accounting, or the big players already in accounting are gonna make a lot of money out of assuring all of this. So, but yeah, I think it's good for us. I think it will give companies that make IT equipment more reasons to be more transparent. So, so that's good. All right, and then we we talked about, so I don't think it's a question anymore. I think we're just gonna pick up operational carbon and grid carbon intensity, and we'll start with a white paper explainer. We talked through a lot of this
separate, yeah,
last week. Yeah, yeah,
separate white paper, right?
yes,
Okay.
a new
So
white paper.
that actually brings me to one important question about this white paper. Do we know when we would sort of like to publish this one? And the reason I ask is because um, at least NVMe SSDs are working on their next spec.
Oh,
And previously, they had just included one section on sustainability saying that LCA needs to be run on the device level following ISO 14040 specification. But the ISO 14040 was an early work, so it's pretty broad. So they were looking to see if they want to give any little more detailed guideline there now. So I was wondering if they can, if we are published early enough, then
uh-huh.
maybe they can give give a pointer towards this as a guideline, not a specification, hard specification, but at least like a guideline.
Mm-hmm. So when do you think we would have to publish
So they
for
are
that?
looking to publish in June 24.
Oh, okay. So when would they want us to release?
I would guess, is
By,
March 24 doable for us?
I would certainly hope so. Why don't we say 2/24. I do think that for me, having a deadline would certainly help. What do we think?
I'm the same.
Yeah, we need it to help track you and guide you.
So shall we aim for that?
Yeah, let's
February
aim for
of
it.
next year? I did manage to spend some time on it today, so I do think for the IC part that we should be able to handle that. I mean, we have a lot of good stuff there. And I think we could get ready to release it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think we just need to do more on the grading part.
Yep, yep. All right, so let's move along and hopefully we can get to grading.
Yeah.
So did anybody have any success in finding other people that would be willing to take the disclosure journey with us?
For the test case, you mean?
Yeah. No luck.
I didn't quite, yeah.
I have my first internal to Intel meeting tomorrow. I'm starting at the bottom rather than at the top. Just kind of to have that first discussion and see how what we've done. In the past, I have talked to these folks because they also are working with other external bodies, and we were pretty well aligned, although the level of detail that we are asking for from OCP is much to be disclosed is much higher than these others. So I will try to start the process in Intel. I would say that for me to talk to leadership, of course, I'm going to make the case around the California regulation requiring scope 3, but if there were a memory vendor and one or and one or two other vendors, I think it would be a lot easier to move this forward. So I'll just put that out there. If people want to keep on working their networks, that would be helpful. So let's go to the white paper. So I don't know how much people remember, etc. But we always had this picture that looked something like this. And we had DJ in a meeting, and he was having a hard time understanding the picture. So that caused me to kind of take a pause and say, okay, let's not start with this super complicated picture. So I kind of I changed the thing to say, well, we're going to talk about the flows, but I'm going to talk about it with these 3 different examples that I talked about here. So just a simple IC package with 1 chiplet, an IC package with 2 different kinds of chiplets, and then a daughter card that has 2 different IC packages on it. So I'm started with those examples. I sort of changed around where some of the text was, and then I start with a much simpler picture. So this is the simple one where there's just 1 chiplet and just 1 package. And so I talk this through, and then I say, okay, for this example, here's some of the pertinent pieces of data for accounting for your carbon and accounting for the grade. So I put I put some ideas on grading here, but this is all stuff we're gonna have to talk through, like the ideas, but just conceptually, I put all that information here. And then I said, if you want to calculate your embodied carbon, here's how you would do it. And, you know, this is what it would be, location. And then this is how you would do it if you use market. And then I said, how would you calculate a grade? And I kind of just put in some of the stuff we already talked about, where we're trying to normalize the grades. So I just put for the grades, I just put, and also, you know, for the carbon values, I just put these little placeholders. And for the grades, I just picked random numbers just so that the example made sense. And so then I built up to example 2 that has 2 different kinds of chiplets, talked that through a little bit, and then put the tables out and then said, okay, here's how you would, for this case, calculate your embodied carbon market and location, and also how the grading would work. And then I did the same thing back to the original picture of with the daughter card, and then gave the example. This one I started to do some color coding to perhaps help people see how things interrelate, and I'll take that color coding back to the other examples. So I think I hope this would make things more clear to people and they would understand. And then it is still followed up by a couple of pictures, and then much, much more. These are the original metadata, you know, fuller metadata tables. So up here, I just did portions of the metadata. So, anything anybody wants to say about this? I guess I would really appreciate if people would go read through the examples, and if we could think through if there's, you know, better ways to do this, and or find bugs. There's a high likelihood that there are bugs.
No, I'm putting it down to do it tomorrow.
Awesome. So
One thing, I haven't read through it, just a question. Maybe this will help answer. So you have examples, right? You're showing those examples. And then farther below, you said you had the full metadata piece.
yeah.
So I'm just trying to, are we implying there's a minimum versus like a full data?
Yes, and this is something that we need to work through before we publish, is that we had this column where we were gonna say, is something required? Is it desired?
Perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. I haven't read it yet, so that's perfect. Okay.
So, but I mean, I do think, you know, now this is part of the reason why I wanted to get like 3 test cases, because if we get to things and, you know, the test cases are just like, you know, like, no, we can't do that, or we don't track that way, or what, you know, then we might as well either remove it, or things that we say, you know, is required, maybe we can move it to desirable or what have you, right? But yeah, it's too much.
Yeah.
So that's why I just kind of trimmed it down to what you would need to calculate embodied carbon using the 2 methodologies, and also to start to calculate the grades.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks.
All right, so if people could just kind of look through this, and see, kind of see if it makes any sense at all. And so I did start to put some ideas for grading. But this is something that I think it would be great if we all start to kind of start to think this through. So what I came to, which is just sort of, I'm not saying it's where we want to end up, but it's just sort of what made sense to me at the moment when I was typing this in, is that for test and assembly and test, scope 1, I kind of said, well, a point for if there's any embodied carbon, if scope 1 is accounted for, and maybe you get 2 points if it's actually, somehow measured versus some modeling or estimation. So, we can talk these through, think through scope 1, these are just ideas. Then when it came to scope 2, I said, well, maybe 1 point for location, if location is included, 1 point for market, 1 point for quality of the market. This is going to be a really tough one. We'll get into this much more with the other paper. One thing we could do for now is to use the RE100 technical criteria. To judge the quality of the market. Another thing is, 2 points if it's measured versus, in the end, you really are, maybe that's, I don't know. All of this scope 2 stuff, we're kind of wading into a mess that's moving from a standards point of view. But rather than diving too deep into the details, maybe we could just kind of talk about the concept of, what I came to was a point system, and you could add points based on what you did disclose and a little bit about the methodology. And
Yeah, I see you put in quite, sorry, I'll let you finish.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I see you put in quite a bit of effort and good amount of detail. Could we once go over, each point, like everything that gives a point addition, could we go over each of those?
Yeah. Do we want to do that now, or do we want to do it? Do you guys want to read it and then think about it? Or how do you want to approach that?
Oh, either ways. Ari, David, do you have a preference? Do you want to read up and then discuss, or we'll discuss right now?
Do we have anything else? I know we have 10 minutes left, right? Do we have anything else pressing? If we don't,
This is it. This is the number one.
yeah, then let's just go through it then.
Okay.
All right. So maybe I would start at the bottom. So at the bottom, I looked through a bunch of stuff that you had put elsewhere in the document, Shruti, and then I also looked at those the more detailed metadata. So for this one, for ATM overall grade, did ATM overall give location-based embodied carbon? And did it, and this one should say market, I think. It's probably what I meant here. So 1 point for if ATM gave location based, and 1 point if they gave market.
Okay.
I had like 1 point for temporal grade. We would need to kind of talk this through as far as
Yeah.
temporal, but I guess I would just say for Intel, all of this is calculated on an annual basis. And for any given part, it could have, all the pieces of it could have been manufactured, some parts in the previous year, then it could have sat on a shelf for a couple of months, or, be shipped around the world. And then, the next stage of manufacturing would occur. And then, so, temporal is difficult. But the temporal can also refer to the quality of your scope 2 greenhouse gas.
Just to interrupt a little bit. So for the temporal piece, so I guess that means how I'm hearing you describe it, there needs to be more definition around what would apply, right? Because if it's
Yep.
just, hey, it's going to be, you are saying this is over 6 months, over 3 months, over that's pretty simple. But then if you start changing the definition a little bit, which I heard you kind of go back and forth between, it makes it complicated. So
Oh,
I don't know. What do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
can
I
I give
mean,
one context?
please, yes.
Sorry, I know temporal word was originally, it was in my notes for that
Right.
grading thing. So I just wanted to give one context of, I was actually thinking of it differently. I think right now when David mentioned, David, you were thinking of over 3 months or over 6 months. Were you thinking of like operational period of 3 months or 6 months? Because the temporal that I was originally referring to was like how long back was the carbon assessment run on the device? Um, how long back meaning sort of noting if if it is run way long back, are the databases etc that are used are older, compared to what are the latest updates to the databases used. So maybe there is IMEX database used or a couple of other databases used. These are going on refining, right? So that is the point of view from which I had temporal in mind.
I see. So when this was done, calculation was done was, let's say, 2021.
Right.
Would that be too simplifying it? And then in 2021, that came from these data sources.
Right. Yeah. Versus now, if you do it 2023, the same data sources, but the sources have been refined more.
Yep.
So that's what I was thinking, because we don't talk about the period of operation or, over 3 months or anything over here for this white paper, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that was my.
Right. So I think, yeah, if you're doing something where you're looking stuff up in a database, right? I was saying more for a company like Intel, we will get all of our annual corporate wide scope 1, 2, and 3, and then we will then assign it to products, right? Based on products that have lots of big die in them will take more than a tiny little product that just has one little die, right? If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So we do that every year. So I think what I'm trying, what I'm I'm not doing a very good job of communicating this. What I'm trying to say is that, you know, when a company is reporting their own number, that, you know, that the temporal is not, it's just done on an annual basis, and it's, you know, a very good measured and then allocated number. Now, one thing that would be interesting, you might say, is that, you know, a lot of times you don't know what year your equipment was manufactured.
Yeah.
And you would see typically the embodied carbon, assuming that the energy cost did not fluctuate wildly, you would see for an existing product that the embodied carbon would go down, because it's just sort of the way that technology works. The more something you make, the more little tweaks you find, and the cheaper you make that thing, right? So, and also, I guess the other thing I would say, right, is that it can take, you know, months and months and months to manufacture these complex parts, right? So that's sort of another thing to put in there. So something to think about. I mean, maybe we
Yeah.
would just want to say you get the plus one if it's measured, right? Because you know that's always very fresh data.
Sorry, what do you mean if it's measured?
Well, I'm saying, like, if the corporation is not looking things up in a database, but they're actually sharing data, you know, in support of the Scope 3 regulatory requirements, that, you know, Intel doesn't look anything up in a database, right? Unless you would
So,
say that, you know, our internal databases of how much, you know,
yeah.
how much energy per manufacturing site, how, you know, et
No.
cetera.
So I'm sort of thinking databases means, because this is an equipment. We're thinking of an IT equipment, a device. So
Uh-huh.
for the device, when you do, different kinds of LCAs, you might be using some industry established, like semiconductor carbon databases, or other databases like IMEX database. Gabby uses a different database. EcoInvent is a different, I think, database.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of, I think those databases are not for companies to use, but they are more about the device.
Right. So my point of view after looking at those databases and talking to people that use them is that the data is pretty bad. And a lot of times those databases are built, it's sort of like a built-in assumption that everything happens at one time in one place, right? But as we showed in the picture, everything, you know, in order to come to have a chip, right? All of these different steps happened at all different places across the world. So, you know, a lot of these databases would look at, you know, like number 7, the customer buys the end products, like, oh, I bought this in the United States, therefore I'll look up US databases. Whereas in truth, a lot of or the manufacturing happened in many other places that have different, you know, the database would be very different for those. So I think what I was
Okay.
trying to do, now I lost where I was on that, is that So for people that use databases, they would get a point based age less than 3 years. This is just a guess. We'll have to figure this out, right? And then maybe we want +1 where things are measured not using database. Does that make sense then? Because I don't
I
think
guess I was
that.
not aware.
Yeah,
I
go
guess I
ahead.
was not aware that it is possible to do a full ground up carbon assessment on a device without using databases. Like, it essentially means you need to know what is the carbon impact right from the mining of the materials that went into it. So I was not aware it is possible to do all measured.
Well,
But that
so
might be my limited understanding.
no, you're right. Because scope 3, tier 2 plus, right?
Mhm.
Intel has no relationship with those. We have relationship with our tier 1 suppliers. So for our tier 1 suppliers, we are able to, you know, get good information. We work with them and to understand what their carbon is, and also to, incentivize them to reduce it. But then and then we ask them to work with their customers,
Mhm.
likewise. But yes, sometimes we need to use some databases. Now, to be frank, I think that frequently people don't report beyond their tier 1 suppliers.
Okay, but
So
I mean, yeah, it's okay
that's,
to keep
but
upgrading if
everything else, from our tier 1 suppliers until we have the final product, it's all knowable to us as a manufacturer.
Right, but that should be or, right? It's either or neither, right?
Well, so what I did do for this, now that I look at it, is if you modeled and or maybe we could even say just even included. If you included your tier 2 plus, you get a point. And then for tier 1, you get a point for if you cover 50% or more of your tier 1, and another point if you cover 75% or more. Because at some point, the law of diminishing returns kicks in, and at different thresholds, companies will not go that deep in their supply chain. So
I get going too. But I think this gets at least me in the mindset to look at this tomorrow to focus on.
yeah, I'll also look at it offline. I also
That
have
would
to
be
jump
great.
right now.
Yeah, it's going to take us quite a while to work through this. So, let's not consider this anywhere near final, but it's just sort of a starting. All
Yeah.
right, appreciate it, everybody. Have a good holiday. I think we're all US folks.
Thank you.
Have a good holiday, and we will talk the next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.